I'm joined by Tom Bevan, founder and publisher of Real Clear Politics, who joins me tonight from Chicago. Tom, thanks. These new polls could show us quite a bit about the race going forward. So what do you see?
Well, obviously, it looks like Clinton is benefiting from the debate performance, though it remains to be seen how much. And as you said, Brett, it's fascinating that viewers thought that she won the debate in the Fox poll 3-1, right? 3-1. And yet her lead in that four-way race only went up by 2 points. And I think that shows just how tight this race is, how divided the country is, and that even with a strong debate performance like she had that first debate, it didn't really move the needle on the numbers that much.
Yeah, I think actually it was that number. That number says 61-31. I think it's actually 61-21. I think that's a mistaken graphic there, folks. So disregard that. We'll take that off the screen. Do you think, so you don't see here that there's a decisive shift here, do you?
Not so much. I mean, what she was able to do, if you dig in the guts of the new Fox poll, she was able to win over more folks from folks that the demographic groups that she was already winning. She won over a little bit more young voters, more women, more minorities. Those folks who are maybe a little soft on her, she drew them into the fold. Whether they're going to stay there over the course of the next 5 or 6 weeks remains to be seen. But she certainly didn't move the needle very much on independents. And Trump's numbers, despite the fact that, again, a lot of his supporters didn't think he had the best debate, his numbers didn't move at all in that four-way race. He was at 40% 2 weeks ago. He's at 40% now.
What do you think accounts for the fact that the debate ruled, a decisive win for Clinton? Didn't seem to hurt Mr. Trump very much.
We're trying to figure that out. I mean, I think what it means is his supporters were locked in. They were not going to be swayed whether he had a, unless he fell off the stage, which he didn't do. I mean, he didn't do anything to disqualify himself, and so this race is going to continue. And I think independents, again, Democrats went into that debate liking Hillary Clinton. They thought she had a great performance, and some Democrats liked her more. Republicans went in, favoring Donald Trump and not liking Clinton, and despite the outcome of that debate, they're still in Trump's camp, and I think that's probably a pretty good sign for Trump that he's still in this race, given that most people who watch that debate think that he lost it rather decisively.
We get frequent complaints, Tom, about the polling in which people believe that Democrats are oversampled and Republicans are undersampled. I took a look at that number, and I think we may have it to put up on the screen, and it showed that it was 42% of those polled said they were Democrats, 38% said Republican. That is roughly in line with the division in the country that we've seen in other polls. Gallup had a poll earlier this year that had something like 42% said they were independents. Between those who identified as Democrats and Republicans, it was like 29-26. So that's roughly in line with what we see, which means I think that we can probably consider that these results are pretty straight. Sure,
I agree with that, and again, that's one of the things that, as you take, I always tell people, I sound like a broken record, I know, but, take the data in the aggregate, look at the Real Clear Politics average for this stuff, and it'll all sort of come out in the wash. But I think you're right about that, and even, again, Britt, telling viewers to remember that this poll had a 3% margin of error, so these numbers, while they come off looking exactly scientific, they're actually representing a range of things. So this race could be tied or Clinton could be up 6 points, but right now in this four-way race in the latest Fox poll, she's ahead by 3.
Tom, thanks very much.
You bet.
So this margin for Mrs. Clinton, is this just a temporary bounce, or could it be something more? Our political panel is here. From National Review, Jonah Goldberg, and from the Washington Examiner, Susan Ferruccio. Susan, what leapt out at you as you looked at the numbers?
Well, I agree with Tom Bevan that it didn't really move the needle much for Trump, but I have a different take as to why. He is stuck at this 40%. This is where he's been pretty much the whole race. He didn't really do much during this debate, and so he didn't do what really he needed to do, which was break into the undecided voters, break into some of the people who he has not been able to bring onto his side. He had many opportunities to do that during the debate. He didn't do it, and he got nowhere, basically. Whereas Clinton was able to, I don't think she had really an outstanding debate performance either, but she was pretty competent, adequate. She looked composed, and she was able to avoid any of these attacks from Trump that would have potentially brought her numbers down. And so she was able to win out a little bit. That's why we see the polls looking still pretty tight, because this 40%, I think it would take a lot to lose some of these 40%. I think he would, you know, we always make the joke he could do just about anything and he would still be at this 40%. That debate performance, I didn't think it was going to move any numbers for him anyway.
Jonah?
I think I generally agree with that. I think that one of the things we lose sight of is because it's a binary debate, we say that one was the clear winner. We think that then translates into she did really well, right? When it could be that if you're faced with a choice between cold gruel and hot gruel, hot gruel is a little better, but it's not a great meal.
It's still
right?
gruel.
It's still gruel.
Right.
And so Clinton, I thought, decisively won. I think most reasonable people thought she decisively won. But she wasn't inspiring. She wasn't, you know, compelling in any powerful way. She just was very good, and she was very good about planting some bait for Donald Trump.
Which he seemed to take, I guess,
which turned out to be pretty easy to do. The one thing that popped out at me in the poll, though, is how, given how much all of us talk about change election, immigration is this hot button issue, this is not the electorate that tracks with a lot of that punditry. Only 15% said immigration was their #1 issue. Hillary Clinton is beating Trump on most of his issues.
You know, that was true throughout the primary season, too. We kept looking state by state as we went through the primaries to see how people ranked issues. And immigration was near the bottom nearly every time. I think that the highest percentage was in New Hampshire, maybe, where 11% of the voters up there said that immigration was their #1 issue, and yet Trump campaigned heavily on it and seemed to win. I wonder if that issue doesn't get subsumed somehow in what people think and feel about the economy.
Well, the reason why those numbers vary from state to state is obviously immigration affects each state differently.
Yeah, but New Hampshire was the one where it had the highest numbers, I recall, or one of the very highest.
No, it's true. And, you know, I think also, you know, the other thing that was really interesting about that poll, and you asked initially what stuck out for me was, Joan and I were talking about this in the green room, just the vast majority of voters said they were going to the polls to vote out of fear of the other candidate, you know, winning. So they weren't going to the polls because they really like Hillary Clinton or they really are supportive of Donald Trump. They're going to vote because they're afraid the other candidate is going to win. So it's really a hold-your-nose election where you just, you know, I don't like my candidate, but I really don't like this other candidate even more. And it's a real indictment of what this campaign season has been about.
Look, these are the two most unpopular major party nominees in American history, at least since the invention of polling. And it shows. And you find it on the right, you find it on the left. People are not enthusiastic about this. Neither one of them, if they win, is going to have a very powerful mandate. Particularly, I think, Hillary Clinton, because Hillary Clinton is campaigning at this point. The only issue that really resonates with most of her supporters is she's not Donald Trump.
Oh.